Do you understand why? Because Charlie Kirk got executed. Yeah. So Charlie Kirk was not far-right. Was he? Because he was. Do you think he was far-right? He said to be. Said to be by journalists who know nothing, like you. By who? By people. But you tell me, what views did Charlie Kirk hold that made him far-right? He believed in the family. What? What did? Again, you? I'm not saying Charlie Kirk's far-right. You said Charlie was far-right. No, I don't think. I said some people say. Some people say. So because some people say, lying, smearing, slandering journalists. Yeah? Who have no? Who? As we've just established, have no evidence. You're just going to call me far-right. I've asked you what makes me far-right. Silence. As much research on that as you have on Islam. Jesus. So, come on, let's just get this point again, because before you write your article, what makes me far-right? I don't know what I see, but you wanna, what makes me far-right? What makes me far-right? You want to trap me? Oh no, I'm not trapping you. No. What makes me far-right? So you co-found the Defense League. It's not. Really, so I co-founded. So for your information, that's right, as a journalist. So I co-founded the English Defense League. The entire time it was set, I was leader of it. You said fully gone. No. The Scotland Yard, our police force, has a domestic extremism unit. The entire time I led the English Defense League, it was categorized by the experts in Scotland Yard as a centrist organization. Did you know that the English Defense League actually had a Jewish division? Did you know that? A gay and lesbian division, a Sikh division, a Hindu division. Does it sound very far-right? So the media, again, just because the media called it far-right, you're a journalist, you're independent, you're doing your own research. So again, what is it in your research against me that you've found that justifies calling me far-right? The way you speak of Muslims. I haven't spoken of Muslims. I spoke of Islam. When did I mention Muslims? You mentioned Muslims. I spoke about Islam and the Prophet Muhammad. So again, do you believe in blasphemy laws? What does blasphemy protection again for religion, or should religion blasphemy? You don't believe in blasphemy. So because I speak negatively against Islam, that's what you believe entitles you to call me far-right. That's it. Yeah. So just to get that one point, just to really nail it home here, if I was a critic of Christianity, would that make me far-right? Let's look at some atheists out there, Richard Dawkins, for example. Would he be far-right for being a critic of Christianity in your humble, expert opinion? Would he be far-right for criticizing Christianity? Oh no. Point proven. Anyway, I just want to prove my point, man. It's like a special protection is given to them. Yeah, you can have a look. Okay. You going to speak to people? There's a comment. So this is live. This is live. Okay. And I haven't done this to embarrass you. Okay. Yeah, you do. How have I embarrassed you? Everybody's looking at me now. Well, everybody's going to be, unfortunately. You're about to run an article where you're going to call me far-right. So, if anyone should be upset here, it should be me. Yeah, because we've just established you've got no grounds to do it. We've established you know nothing about Islam, and we've established that you're the so-called French expert on this issue. So, if anyone should be upset, it shouldn't be you. I've just used this evidence, this video, to basically expose really the mainstream media. That's what I've done it for. Yeah. But, okay. It's different because it's not my language. So it's kind of, you know what I'm saying. You're going to call me far-right. Yeah, anyhow. And you don't want, I'm not far-right. It's a smear. It's a smear. It's an unfair smear. And for too long, journalists have been able to get away with it. But it doesn't really matter anymore, because when the public now sees the word far-right, they think, well, he's telling the truth. That's what's happened now. There's been a total swing. Whereas people used to think, well, stay away from him, he's far-right. Now it draws people to us. In a tense and at times circular exchange, British activist Tommy Robinson pushed back forcefully against a French journalist's suggestion that he holds far-right views, challenging the reporter to define what precisely earns him that label. The conversation, reportedly part of a wider documentary or interview project, began with a familiar media refrain that Robinson, the founder and former leader of the English Defense League, EDL, represents Britain's far right. But Robinson, characteristically combative, seized on the phrase demanding specifics. Throughout the exchange, Robinson accused the media and the journalists before him of parroting smears without evidence. He portrayed himself not as an extremist, but as a patriot targeted by lying, slandering journalists who know nothing. The scene encapsulates a pattern familiar in Robinson's media appearances, a deliberate reframing of the debate from ideology to credibility, challenging journalists to defend their own methods, and, in doing so, painting himself as a victim of lazy or biased reporting. While Robinson insists that his activism is directed solely against Islamist extremism, critics argue that his rhetoric and the EDL's street demonstrations have consistently attracted violent, xenophobic, and Islamophobic elements. Human rights groups have long classified the EDL as part of Britain's far-right ecosystem, citing its confrontational protests and inflammatory rhetoric. Still, the exchange raises an enduring question about journalistic responsibility. What does the label far-right truly mean? And when does it become shorthand for something more complex? Robinson's challenge, whether in good faith or strategic deflection, forces his interlocutors to reckon with the nuances behind political branding in an era of polarized discourse. And that was an extremely damning report that Ben just gave from the streets of Manhattan. It's very disheartening, and we've seen echoes of that also on the streets of London and across the UK. I think it's a reminder. It's one of many wake-up calls that we've seen since October the 7th. Everyone's aware of the tragedies, the atrocities, the massacres that took place on October the 7th, the butchering, the raping, the kidnapping. But I think another war that was really unleashed on October the 7th was this globalized, unified anti-Semitism war that has spread well beyond the confines of the Middle East. We've seen it on the streets of London. We've seen it in Australia, Canada, France, and also in the streets of the UK. Today is very much a day of celebration, a festival for many of these people who are openly and unambiguously and proudly supporting terrorism. Of course, I'm not saying that people shouldn't be protesting in the streets, but when you have people who are waving the flags of an internationally designated terrorist organization, as Ben pointed out, when you have people who are celebrating the butchering of 2 Jewish worshippers on Yom Kippur, the holiest day in the Jewish calendar, that's a huge cause for concern.